To order at 6:02 for the November 20th Elk Creek Fire Protection District Board meeting. I see all of our directors are present. You can stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and then remain standing for a moment of silence for our first responders. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So we have 13 names to add to our line of duty death this month. That brings the total for the year between career and volunteer firefighters across the country and Canada to 131 line of duty deaths. Sometimes these line of duty deaths, it takes them a while to link them back to a line of duty death. So every once in a while we'll get a few that come through that are way back at the beginning of the year. So that's why you hear those occasionally show up. So we have a couple of those tonight. Back from March 3rd of this year, Stephen Griffith, 66 years old, of a medical emergency from Danville, West Virginia. Excuse me. July 10th of this year, Mac G. Mays Jr., 47 years old, of a medical emergency from Madison Heights, Virginia. September 26th, Isabella Oscarson. She was 26 years old and she was struck by a falling tree while working on a prescribed fire. She was from Minnesota, but she was working in Idaho at the time. October 1st, Brandon Clausen, 40 years old, of a medical emergency from Bristol, Tennessee. October 11th, Scott Wilson, 60 years old, suicide from post-traumatic stress-related illness, Riverside City, California. August 11th, Neil Austin, 54 years old, occupational cancer, Vancouver, British Columbia. October 12th, Daniel A. Thompson, occupational cancer, 49 years old, Milton, Massachusetts. Terry Sargent, on October 19th, 49 years old, occupational cancer, Birmingham, Alabama. October 22nd, Raymond McElwee, 56 years old, occupational cancer, Kansas City, Missouri. November 7th, John Garza II, 52 years old, occupational cancer, Phoenix, Arizona. November 4th, Khalif Leslie Daly. This was an unknown cause, 31-year-old, became ill the first day of training academy and passed away. Martinez, Georgia. November 8th, Patrick Brady, 42 years old, of a medical emergency, New York, New York. And November 16th, Herman Naring, 64 years old, occupational cancer, Stamford, Connecticut.
Thank you all very much. I'm going to move right into number 4 on the agenda, additions or deletions to the agenda with a subsequent approval. Are there any additions, changes to the agenda? Fantastic.
Make a motion to approve the agenda as written.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Fantastic. Moving on, would somebody be so kind as to, thank you.
Yes, I will.
Awesome. Okay. First up is Mr. Neil Whitehead. Sharon, can you time for me, please? 3 minutes.
I can do that. Thanks for reminding me.
I appreciate you doing that.
Council, this is a copy for you.
Are you ready? When you're ready, Mr. Whitehead.
A major decision tonight for the Elk Creek Fire Board.
The voters of the Elk Creek Fire Protection District in November 2023 rejected the ballot question to join North Fork and Enter Canyon to form the Conifer Fire Department using the Consolidation Statute 601 of Title 32. Then, almost exactly a year ago, November the 21st, 24, the board approved a resolution to attempt unification using the 501 statute of Section 32. 4 directors of the 5-member board thought they could administratively override the will of the people. Director Newby and I filed a lawsuit in May 2025 with the 1st District Court of the state of Colorado to stop Elk Creek Fire and the board. On October the 20th, the judge issued a ruling to deny Elk Creek's motion to dismiss the case. Currently, the case is now free to proceed with briefs on the technical merits of the case. Tonight, we believe the board will be faced with deciding to moot the case, that is essentially to withdraw from the case by revoking the revised pre-consolidation agreement and the 2 board-passed resolutions supporting unification. We believe that Elk Creek was educated by our attorneys that the 501 statute is not sufficient to accomplish what Elk Creek wants to achieve. Possibly Elk Creek will seek changes to the 501 statute in the Colorado General Assembly. How much of all this is going to cost the Elk Creek Fire taxpayers? I suggest to the board the other and much cheaper and more satisfying to the electors alternative is for at least 2 of the board members to find some courage tonight, plus Director Newby's vote. With these 3 votes, then to place the consolidation of Elk Creek and Conifer districts using the 601 statute as was done in November 2023 as a ballot question on the May or November 2026 election. Why is the Elk Creek Fire Protection District so opposed to allowing the people of the district to have freedom to decide their own destiny? Save Elk Creek Fire!
And Mr. Koch, I believe he is online.
Yes.
Is that-
Diane, can you hear me?
We can. Hi, Flip. You have 3 minutes, sir.
Alrighty, I'm almost ready. I'm using my phone. I'm having to do this by phone rather than my laptop. Ready?
Go ahead. Go.
Good evening. Thank you for this opportunity to address the Elk Creek FPD Board of Directors. My name is Flip Koch. I reside in the Wombly Valley area of Elk Creek. I'm a 3rd-generation firefighter and volunteer member of this FPD. However, I speak here, as always, as a private citizen informed by my years of fire and other emergency service. Per core request, first the updated Newby legal cost tally. In the past 34 months, Elk Creek taxpayers have spent $71,327.22 on legal fees directly attributable to this director, amounting to just under 59% of Elk Creek's total legal budget during this period, and 64% this year. For comparison with these funds, Elk Creek could instead have purchased about 20 SCBAs, our breathing apparatus, or else 15 sets of bone gear that keep us from burning up during structure fires. Second, the updated obstruction of unification by Newby and Whitehead Tower. It has exceeded $73,100 in legal and election costs already paid by us taxpayers, or the equivalent cost of 21 SCBAs or 16 sets of bunker gear. Estimated total cost to taxpayers by this time next year, if Newby and Whitehead get their way, now is nearly $937,000, mostly through lost service contracts with Conifer FPD, higher property taxes by virtue of Elk Creek not being part of Conifer FPD, and legal costs these men hope to recover at taxpayer expense. This is equivalent to the cost of a new fire engine. These are colossal, unproductive wastes of taxpayer funds. Now to switch gears. Many people in today's United States live paycheck to paycheck. They rarely do this by choice, as almost everyone understands that having rainy day reserves is a wise thing. At the October Board of Directors meeting, Director Newby recommended that Elk Creek return its unrestricted reserve funds to the taxpayers. Illogic aside, these funds do not all come from me and my fellow taxpayers. This would have the net effect of forcing our FPD to live paycheck to paycheck. Unfortunately, Elk Creek only has 2 reliable property tax paychecks a year, and they are unlikely to align in time with emergency needs. In his 3 years in office, Director Newby still hasn't learned that by their very nature, emergencies are mostly unpredictable, which makes our emergency reserves rainy day fund absolutely essential to the safety of our community. to the prudent running of this FPD. What Director Newby is proposing is politically slick, but fiscally irresponsible. What is deeply hypocritical about Newby's proposal is that simultaneously, he and his accomplice Whitehead are costing us taxpayers a fortune through their legal maneuvers. The reserve funds he is targeting for his pseudo-populist pork barrel may also be needed to pay Newby and Whitehead, or whoever is financing them, for their politically motivated court actions. Directors of this board are charged with overseeing the strategic running of this FPD in the interest of public safety and in a fiscally responsible manner. What Director Newby is proposing would do exactly the opposite of your appointed tasks. Despite his claims, he does not speak for me as a taxpayer, nor for any other Elk Creek taxpayer I know. Do the right thing. Thwart Newby's latest foolish proposal. Public safety before partisan politics, I repeat.
Time.
Public safety before petty, parochial, pseudo-populist partisan politics. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you. All right. Rolling in, we'll move on to a review and approval for the October 2025 regular meeting minutes. Those are in your packet. I'll entertain a motion.
You need to fix the call to order because I misspelled your last name. You're Delaney in the first paragraph. So I'd like to fix it to Delaney, yeah, okay?
That's, yeah, editorial changes, so that's fine. Kind of
Misspellings
answering to
aside,
the,
I make a move to approve minutes of the October meeting. Thank you.
Second.
thank you. It's called Danielle and Monica twice this week, so whatever, as long as you're kind of close. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you, motion is approved. Move on to financial matters. Sharon, it's yours. Thank you very much for this report.
Welcome. I'm not going to go over this in detail because I've sent all of you one by email, and I also do have a printed copy next to your name.
And we can all read.
And you can all read, last I checked. So basically revenues, total revenues are at 91% of budget, which is a good place to be. And property taxes, which are the biggest part of our budget, are at 99% of the budget amount. So this is for October. We have 2 more months to collect revenue to get to pretty darn close to 100%. So I feel comfortable with our revenue numbers. Expenses, we're at 82% of the budgeted expenses. Basically, October is 83% of the year on a linear basis. So we're, again, expense-wise, we're like a tad below what we would expect to be in October. So I'm comfortable that our expenses are well in line with budget, and we should be within budgeted expenses by the end of December. A note, out-of-district fires were at $1,511,687, and that's 97% of what we budgeted. So again, we're pretty close to our budgeted number. Probably won't make that number, would be my guess. We've collected from the state $352,177. I'm not alarmed by that because we always collect 100% of what we submit, give or take an error here and there. So I'm comfortable that we will get to that. The amount in the ledger includes 2024 fires and 2025 fires. So that's why it's a little different than the 352,000. Any questions?
Just a point of clarification, Chief, what is the running return time from SERF? Are we about 90 days?
Except for a government shutdown.
Right.
Barring the government shutdown.
So yes, historically, it's give or take 90 days. It has to do with how busy the fire season is, et cetera. We had some administrative changes that set us back a little bit, and then we're in the same boat as nearly every agency probably in the country right now. The government shutdown really created a few challenges.
So last year, we actually were pretty close to 60 to 70 days.
Yeah.
So 90 days in today's environment, but the shutdown is probably
Optimistic?
optimistic.
Yeah,
Yes.
I know.
And so I suspect that we will be collecting a lot of that money in 2026.
That's
Is what'll happen, but we'll get the money, I'm not worried about that.
How much is left on 2024?
None. We collected 100%.
We're.
Yeah, I think 24, I think 24 is done.
Yeah, it is, it's done.
Thank you for that clarification. And just for the public, when you say errors in CERP reimbursements, what is that? What is that? That's,
That could be an error on our side, whether we submit something to the state. and they
Keystroke error.
correct it. Yeah, clerical errors usually, and they send it back. Could be a mistake on their side, and again, it's a back and forth discussion.
Okay.
Last year, I think we had one submission that went back and forth a couple times, but ultimately, I paid all of it, so.
Yeah, so sometimes they'll come up with travel if there's not a travel explanation. So if Google says it takes you 8 hours to get from point A to point B, and there was traffic or something or other, so then we end up turning in 13 hours without the justification, they'll kick that back.
that's right.
We have the justification, then it goes back, it's clunky and inefficient, it adds a bunch of time, but that's kind of what the errors end up being, or keystroke errors or something like that.
Yeah, no, I understand. I just wanted, when we say things like that, I want to make sure that we're transparent on what those errors are really referencing. It's just, it's a back and forth with the feds.
Yeah.
Back and forth.
Okay. So Sharon, are you submitting the motion?
I will submit a motion to approve the expenses for October 2025.
Fantastic. Second?
I'll second.
Take your pick. You're typing, you get to choose. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All- Chuck, I'm sorry. Did you?
Aye.
Okay, thank you, sir. There was another one. All right, moving through. Chief Ware, you are up next. You, just
All right.
like Sharon's report, you don't, we can all read. I'm trying to be very efficient with people's time.
That's kind of, we'll support that. Pretty standard month. Total calls were 97, so it's down from 24. Mutual aid we received. We received it once. We gave it 3 times. Transports were up a little bit. So some of the highlights. Training, again, relatively benign. Fire prevention. There were a couple things we added in the nth hour in this, and I realize they're not from October, but on November 12th, the Jefferson County Planning Commission recommended approval for their revised short-term rental regulations. Changes include limiting investment short-term rentals to only 1% of the dwellings in a fire protection district, implementing occupancy limits, and requiring maintained access. These regulations will be going to the Board of County Commissioners in December for final approval. Doesn't necessarily affect us directly, but it affects a lot of our residents. During the hearings, a number of our residents testified, so that's kind of why we threw it in here, because it does affect our residents and it's important to our residents. We have our C.R.A. It's open until 23rd. Again, talked about that last month. We're going to be adopting the 2024 International Fire Code with local amendments in the next few months, along with the Wildland Urban Interface Code in April. That's the code that the state put out this year, going back and forth. We're working with Jefferson County and neighboring agencies on both of these to ensure collaboration and consistency. One of the big things, if you guys remember, on the state urban interface code is enforcement. We don't want to do that. We don't have the bandwidth, we don't have the people, we don't have the funding, and it makes it a challenge, and we're not the only ones. Most of the smaller fire protection districts don't have the ability to do it. So we've been working with Jeffco, and it looks like Jeffco is going to be able to do a lot of that. Again, there's still some moving parts with it. We don't have anything completely done with it, but hopefully next coming months it'll be lined out. But that's kind of the goal, is we do not want to be the ones enforcing it and imposing fines, etc., because it's nearly impossible for us to do.
Yeah.
Let's see, also did want to talk about, Trunk or Treat, had a bunch of outreach, or a bunch of people came out. Thanks to all the volunteers and staff. That was, again, it's always a good time. And our last community event will be on the Christmas in Conifer on December 6th with the parade, Santaland, and we'll be providing EMS services. Wildland Division, bunch of stuff. You guys can read most of it. Yeah, I guess the big things are seasonals are laid off for the winter. Fuels crew is going through, they were going a little bit longer because we kind of staggered them. They came on later so they could run later. Historically, we've had higher fire danger in that, so we tried to see how that worked out. Worked out, we didn't have any fires. We were able to get all our project work done. And that's kind of the gist of that.
And does it. Thank you very much. We have no old business before the district, and so we will move into new business. I'm assuming when I read 10A that that's a typo and we mean 2026.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. All right, I want to set some ground rules for this in the interest of everybody's time. So that the public is aware, I messaged the board of directors before this meeting. This is a public hearing. It provides the public an opportunity for questions and answers. I will take people on a hand raise basis in the order that I see them. Just like with public comment, you will be given 3 minutes. We will try to address those, or we will get back to you with answers. As a board, I am asking everybody to respect everyone else's time. I ask you to not speak over each other. I ask you to write out your questions, because I have directed Chief Ware to do the high-level overview. We'll move into your questions and comments, and then we'll move on to the board's questions and comments. But please don't make me break my phone tonight, and I'm not going to hold the gavel. So with that being said, I need a motion to move into motion and a second to open the 2026 budget hearing.
Motion.
Second.
Thank you. We will move into, unless there's any objection, we will move into the budget hearing at 6:25. Chief Ware, can you please give the board and the public in attendance and online your overview of the budget? And again, the packet is posted on the website, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah. So for those of you in the gallery, you can go to the website and pull up the budget and the board packet, so you can see what we're talking about. Chief Ware?
All right. So I'll preface this with, you'll see a lot of abouts and arounds in this narrative. Again, our budget is a projection of what we think we're going to get. So the 2026 proposed budget for the Elk Creek Fire Protection District has been prepared in accordance with Title 32, Article 1, Special District Act, etc. So I'm going to, again, try and respect everybody's time because I think everybody can read. I probably don't need to reiterate some of this stuff. If there's any points of clarity, please let me know and I can read it again. The budget represents the best estimate of expected revenues and anticipated costs for 2026. All projected revenues and expenditures are subject to change as more complete information is available. In the end, the budget will be, even after adoption, an estimate of the revenue and expenditures for 2026. Actual income and cost may vary. This budget is broken down into the areas where money is spent. The final numbers are easier to find and see what certain programs cost and how they impact the district. So the beginning fund balance. The district begins 2026 with about $7.8 million in available funds. It's a modest decrease from 2025. This change reflects the capital reserves for the lease payment on the 2 new fire engines, however. Our first lease payment is due on December 26th. That's going to be something, obviously, we're financing that for 10 years. So revenues. Total 26 revenues are projected at $7.763, an increase of about 3.1% compared to the 2025 estimate. Revenue growth is primarily driven by a modest increase in JEFCO assessments, improved ambulance billing receipts, and increased mitigation contract income, offset by an expected reduction in wildfire reimbursement revenue. So property taxes projected at 4.7 with an increase of about 4%. Specific ownership taxes, they're staying the same. Delinquent taxes, no change. Total tax revenue is projected to increase about 4% from 4.8 to $5 million. Non-tax revenue, ambulance billing. We have increased ambulance billings. We have more transports and more people are paying. It's odd, I don't know why, but when we run the numbers, that's just the way it works right now. It's ebbed and flowed and dipped. We're actually at a collection right now right around 44%, which is much better than our 36%. Again, no rhyme or reason, and that's a projection. It could all stop in February as well. But trending right now, that's what we're looking at. Surf wildfire reimbursements, we did decrease it slightly, and ironically enough, we ended up coming much closer to it, to our projected from last year. That was due to some late season assignments in California. Mitigation contracts, significant increase. We actually have a handful of mitigation projects around the district that as we restructure our fuels crew and several other things, we're going to be able to tackle, which should increase that revenue. IGA reimbursements, that's a big decrease from about 2.25 to 96, so it's about a 57% decrease. Conifer Fire has chosen to remove some funding for some programs. Other incomes, decline, that's the random one that we talked about. We don't have a fire engine to sell next year, so we're probably not going to sell that. We are going to have an ambulance that we're going to surplus. Hopefully, fingers crossed, as soon as we get the new ones, I'm going to come to you and ask you for permission to surplus a 2009 lightly used Dodge ambulance. Transfer from reserves. Transfer from reserves total 782. This is an increase of 193% from 2025. What this is this transfers to the capital expenditures for the purchase of the 2 new ambulances and the lease payment for the 2 fire engines. I just wanted to make sure that we see that that's actually coming out of that capital reserves. You know, that's what we were saving for, and that's where that money's coming from. Total expenditures for 2026 are proposed at 7.9, representing an increase of 2.8% from 2025, 7.7. The spending plan maintains operational stability while addressing specific cost escalations in labor, capital leases, and prevention activities. So what I tried to do is highlight things that had changes greater than 25%. This year we really don't have our bottom line and our top line, they're not changing a whole lot with a 4% budget increase. What we're trying to do is, again, anything that had big increases, that's what I want to talk about in this. So health and wellness. 55,000 was last year's, it went up to 105. This change reflects enhanced wellness programs, including mental health resources, fitness stipends, and preventive medical screenings for staff. So for those of you who don't know, we have mandatory health screenings for all employees and volunteers. These are a head-to-toe, all-inclusive physical, and to be responded, you have to do it. They're not cheap, but I think they're extremely valuable. The other things that we have a health and wellness committee that came up with the needs, and I worked with the committee, and that's where the other increases are. One of the things that we've been deficient on is mental health. Mental health is real. So this is actually going to have some mental health resources for our firefighters. And all of this, when I say firefighters, this includes volunteer and career. There's no different. All the benefits for everybody here. Fuels crew. So these are the expenses, the equipment, etc. There's a decrease in this. So we did a lot of juggling. As I talked about, Conifer Fire is no longer funding the fuels crew, so we had to do some realigning. We basically reclassed some seasonal costs into mitigation contracts line and changed some of the ways the fuels crew operates. So what we did is take a lot of their expenses and roll them into the module, so it's just one line item. And again, it was just trying to streamline some things and try and save a few pennies in a few places with maintaining operational readiness. Leases and capital increased from 657 to 782. The growth it's close to 25%, but basically, again, we're going to pay for these 2 ambulances, and I know there was discussion. We've always paid cash for our ambulances. We were budgeting about $515 for the 2 ambulances. It's about $500 for the 2 ambulances. That's what we have left to pay. And then the other 15 is for radios, etc. All the other tchotchkes that get bolted to it to put it in service. And we should have a grant reimbursement on that, which is about 140 to 150 on that, which will be an offset for that. Let's see, oh, and the 2 new engines. Prevention. There's an increase in that. It funds the expanded community risk reduction programs, code enforcement, and public education efforts supported by Prevention Division. What we did with a lot of this is you'll see some changes. We tried to break out training. Originally, training was in one giant bucket in all the divisions spent out of that bucket, so we actually kind of divvied it up and put it into each one, so when the Prevention Division has a training, we can track it a little better. It's going to be better for accountability. Prevention labor, there is an increase in that. We are going to add 1 full-time mitigation specialist in an effort to bring our home assessment program, much like the chipping program was 4 or 5 years ago. The home assessment program has become, we've become victims of our own success. Right now we almost have a 12-month backlog of assessments. As somebody brought up, a 12-month backlog is not necessarily a program. It's just a mess. So we are going to try and juggle some things around and add 1 more assessor. Right now we have 1 mitigation specialist, Kelly, who's kind of moved into more of a project planning, and she is ultimately buried. If we don't do something, we're never going to get out of it. We actually, a little while ago, got a real estate sale, and now we're getting more of these. That sale is contingent on having a new home assessment. So it appears there's value in some of these home assessments, but this also puts more pressure on it because we have to figure out how to navigate it. We've created this monster, and now we've got to figure out how to manage it. So we're going to add 1 more person in there. Wildland suppression decreases from 137 to 53, reallocating the expenses as well as cost containment. We've really tried to, I'm not going to say cut some corners, but be more thoughtful in our spending. Training expenses decreases from 119 to 92. This minor reflection reflects a division of training expenses in specific areas instead of the large blanket training budget. All other expenditure categories remain within the normal fluctuation, you know, the moderate inflationary changes. So we are going to have, our benefits are going up. We finally got the numbers, you know, 15 to 18% all the way across from general liability as well as health for our employees. So reserves, we still have a fair amount of reserves. So Tabor Reserve, we've got that general fund carryover. Again, there's not really a lot of changes in there. The capital reserve fund, it draws down from 3.1 to 2.4. That's due to the capital purchases. We still have 7.7 in reserve. So summary and outlook. 2026 proposed budget for the Elk Creek Fire Protection District reflects fiscal management and responsible investment in the district's personnel, equipment, and mission-critical programs. While total expenditures rise modestly, the district maintains balanced operations with strategic use of reserves and sustainable service delivery models across all divisions. Looking forward, ECFPD will continue to monitor property tax trends, personnel costs, and wildfire activity to ensure financial stability and operational readiness. Again, next year will be another assessment year, so next year will be, well, everybody's curious to see what that's going to be. The last few have been quite the adventure with a lot of the legislation that's gone through. So I imagine next year at this time this will look very different.
Thank you very much. I'm going to start with, I'm going to go around the board. Kathleen, questions, comments?
Thanks, Chief.
Sharon?
I'm okay, I have some line item questions, but I think we can not worry about those because this is really high level.
They're not going to be,
No, they're not going to be impactful.
okay. Chief, I know you emailed it to me, but for the record, what is the contract worth with Conifer Fire that is not being renewed in 2026?
I'm going to say it's about 230, give or take. You know, it's so the contract that we have just says labor, and so it fluctuates. It's been as low as probably 220, and it's been higher, like 260-ish, because there's overtime, there's a bunch of things. So right around 230, 235 for labor. Then there's also about 100,000 in equipment, which includes a truck and a chipper.
So they own one of the chippers, don't they?
Yes, ma'am.
So are we gonna rent that from them? or-
We have our own.
Right.
Yeah, no, we're not gonna rent it. We're working with Conifer Fire to see what we're gonna do. You know, they do want to continue the programs, so we're gonna see, we're trying to navigate what that looks like.
Okay. I look forward to seeing what you come up with.
Yeah, I mean, they, you know, of course, they want to continue the program. The Conifer Wildland Division still exists. There's nothing changing with the Conifer Wildland Division. It's critically important to keep that division going with the interagency cooperation that we have. We just kind of need to navigate and see what it looks like to maintain those programs within the Conifer Fire District.
I really have no other comments. I'm just going around the room in case anybody didn't read it. I have no comments other than a huge thank you for the budget in general, but on the increase in funding, especially with the focus on preventative medical screenings. Director, any questions or comments?
No question, just quick comment. Thank you, Chief. appreciate you putting together the budget. Also, I know there were probably a lot of people in the district that were involved in putting this budget together. So I'd like to thank everybody for that. I know, we're operating in challenging times, and I know budgeting and forecasting can be difficult in those uncertain times. And again, so I appreciate the effort into this. I think the budget looks good. I think it demonstrates excellent fiscal management by the division of taxpayer money. And, I like the budget, and I think your summary and outlook look good as what we need to take care of. The only thing I would put in there is, this is the equipment, turnout gear, bunker gear, the inflation, and all of those things.
Yeah, we usually, along that line, we try and, bunker gear, we try and buy 8 to 10 sets a year, give or take. It's on a constant rotation so we try and buy it more often than it expires. So the usable life is supposed to be 10 years. That's not realistic. It wears out far before that. So what we try and do is we have, each of the employees has 2 sets of bunker gear. They rotate those in an effort to extend the life. And then we also, honestly, right around 5 years, it's probably to the point that it can go, we'll usually use it for our rookie academy, something like that, and replace it. So we are thinking about that, and we consistently try and do that 10 sets a year, whether we need it or not, just because if not, what happens is we end up in a pickle where we have to buy a lot of gear. So yeah, we have thought about that. We're trying to continue with that. And yeah, for the record, to outfit one firefighter, soup to nuts, for wildland and structure, it's right around almost $7,000 in today's dollars. It's very expensive.
Thank you.
Anything else, Director Ross?
No, thanks.
Director Eady?
Yeah, I had a few questions, clarifications. Could you explain, just for the board, for people who don't understand how you go about buying ambulances? How did we buy the 2 ambulances that are on order? I understand that those are going to be delivered in March, right? So, are we still expecting that delivery schedule? Just could you explain a little bit about how that how that purchase came about, how the bill came about? How the delivery will occur, and then how will we put those into service?
Okay, so the ambulances, and actually this is something I can touch on for Director Devaney. You did ask about short buses. So the ambulances, we have a pretty good process. We've been buying them a long time. What we usually do is when we got a grant for these, I believe in 23 is when they were ordered, and we select a vendor. So go through, there's an ambulance committee made up of career and volunteers, select a vendor that meets our needs, and then go ahead and place an order. Lead times are ridiculous right now, so we were able to do that. We have paid some incremental cost once the chassis are delivered. We had to pay for the chassis. We might have done that last year. I don't remember when we did it. I think it was last year. So the chassis were right around $60,000, I think.
Yeah.
So we made those, so that was 120 that we paid there. And then the vendors have, they call them build slots. So everybody's in line to get their products built. Our build slot is coming in. They actually, a slight update, there's a possibility it may come a little bit sooner. There were some people that ran into some money trouble, so they were able to bail out of their build slots before, once the units are started, once the units are being built, you can't bail out. You can't get your money back, it's done. And then so once they start getting built, we, a lot of times will travel down for a mid-build, just to make sure it's what we're looking for. Some, on ambulances, it's pretty easy. They're all, I mean, it sounds stupid, but they're all kind of the same.
So where are they being built, just out of curiosity?
That's a great question. I have no idea where Lifeline is located. That would be something that,
They have a facility in Indiana.
I was gonna say, I think there's
Most
somewhere in
of
the
them are
there's somewhere in the
assembled in
Midwest. Wheeled Coach used to be Texas. There are a bunch of different ones. I'd have to check with fleet maintenance, honestly. Because again, I try and, I've said this before, when I get involved in these, it's either unsafe or stupid. I really believe that these should be designed by the people that work on them. So I don't, our fleet manager, I work with him, he selects the vendors, he does all this. So I think, yeah, either Indiana or, I'm going to Texas, but I'm gonna have to look. So,
The assembly facility for Lifeline, and most of them are in Indiana. I actually just found this out because I'm managing another district.
well, there you go. Yeah, so anyway, so what'll happen is once we get them, so these ambulances are gonna be a challenge because, as everybody's aware, this side of the building we use for one of our ambulances. It was built in 1962, and the industry standard has changed. It changed in, I believe, 2017. These are gonna be too tall to fit in these bays. We're going to be, that's where I did mention to you, here in the next few months, I'm probably going to be coming to this board for some significant infrastructure improvements. Once we start coming up with a plan, I'll probably deliver it to this board and we'll have to talk about that because we need, our antiquated infrastructure is not going to work. So
are we going to need to modify the buildings to
We can't.
to park the ambulances?
we can't modify the buildings. It's pre-stressed concrete. We're either going to have to buy or build. And I've got a handful. Once there's more to it, I'll bring it to the board, and we're going to have to, and again, it's ultimately up to this body to decide what we're going to do, but our 1962 bays do not work with 2026 ambulances. Again, I've got some plans. They're in their infancy. There's no point wasting everybody's time on them now. But so what will happen is once we get the ambulances delivered, they usually get a fleet. They don't come with radios and a few other tchotchkes, so our fleet maintenance will have to put in like SCBA racks, radios, etc. It'll probably take them a couple weeks. Once those are done, then it'll probably take another 2 or 3 weeks to get, it'll probably take about a month and a half to get all the stuff on them and put them in service. Once they're in service, once they're inspected, then that's the time they'll go in service. So I think rough time frame is the beginning of summer.
Okay.
Hopefully sooner. But there could be any number of hiccups with that.
So how much did we pay total all-in cost for
All-in cost,
both ambulances or?
they're right around $350 a piece. $350, $350,000.
$350K a piece?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and we've had incremental expenditures on them. The other thing we've already paid for is the pram, the gurney, the stretcher that goes in the back. We had to buy those as well as the auto loader, and we've already paid for those. We paid for those this year. And then so what happens is basically when they get delivered, we write the check for them, and then we submit to the RETAC, which is the grant we got for them. So we'll submit. It's a reimbursement grant, so we can't get that grant money until we spend the money. So once we spend the money, pay for them, then we'll submit, and I believe the grant is right around 140, give or take.
Good deal. The other question I had was regarding the 2 fire engines that we have on order. So we are purchasing them through over a 10-year period through a lease purchase, right?
That's correct.
So if we with that lease purchase agreement, we will pay about $600,000 in interest. Right?
That's correct.
So we have a lease payment coming due at the end of the year,
Yes.
right? So we're on the hook for that one.
Yes.
So why wouldn't we just use the cash from reserves and save ourselves the rest of that interest, that $500K?
Well, because of the interest that we make on that money in the bank. We make about, next year we're projecting about $367,000 on interest income. So based on, whatever 4%, it changes daily. On 4%, it makes far more sense to me to keep the money in the bank and have that interest income. That's something we talked about, this going from lease. Director Woods brought this up too. And I do appreciate that because $600,000 is a lot of money in interest. But on the flip side, $367,000 a year in interest income adds up very quickly. So this year and next year, we're going to offset that interest over the term of the lease. Now, this is something we're going to have to revisit. If interest rates tank.
Well, and that was my question, because interest rates are projected to start falling. And so the question is, will we continue to earn that projected income year over year in the out years? I mean, do you have a comment on that, Sharon?
Well, interest rates, I do have one question. Is our interest rate variable on these leases, or is it set?
Oh, on the leases, no, it's set.
It's a fixed interest rate.
It's essentially like a mortgage, it's like an amortization schedule, as I understand it, right?
Right, for 10 years. So if interest rates do go down, that means we'll be earning less.
Correct.
So that might be something we should revisit
Yes.
further along in the lease.
And that's,
When we have an idea what the interest rates are doing.
there's no early payoff penalty. So
Right,
when we went through this, we looked at it, it made more sense to finance it right now. And then every time we'll look at it, if interest rates do tank and we stopped earning interest income on this, I'll come to you and ask if we can pay it off immediately. That's why we did it. We went back and forth on whether or not to pay it outright or lease it, and it made sense at the time, and I still believe right now it makes sense to do that. But as soon as, if interest rates do go down and we're no longer making that, it doesn't make fiscal sense, then we definitely pay it off.
So on our, are we earning interest on all of our reserves or just on a certain portion of them?
All of them.
All of them?
Yeah.
Every penny.
So really, so that reserve is throwing off, how much did you say in interest per year? Like last year or this year?
So let's
Just
see.
ballpark.
We're projecting, I think 360.
What have we earned year to date?
What's that?
What have we earned in interest year to date? Sorry, I'm looking at the interest income year to date on investments is $305,624.73. That was as of 10/31/2025. Right here.
Yep.
So 305K.
Year, as of October.
Oh, as of October.
Yeah,
Yes,
it's in your report. You
Yeah.
get this every month.
Yeah.
And again, that's something that we need to look at, and if interest does start, and we do look at it. If this does change where it doesn't make fiscal sense, we'll write the check for it. That was the goal that we wanted to be. It was in a position where we could either write a check or finance it, whatever made the most fiscal sense at the time.
Yeah, and that's something that, we'll be looking at over the course of
Yeah.
next year and the years after, truthfully. I mean, just makes sense.
Yeah, and if we need to, we have the ability to write the check for it, which was the goal with all of
It's
this.
kind of like, I couldn't pay cash for the car that I just got. I
But,
didn't,
yeah,
because I really didn't want to bring my reserves down that much, so it's finance.
Well, and we discussed this when we signed that contract as well. When we all agreed to that contract as well.
Well, and it really wasn't clear to me at the time what the rationale was. So this is helpful in that it clarifies that for me.
Okay,
That's all I had.
that's it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good questions.
I know that Mr. Whitehead has made a note. Is there anybody else in the gallery that would like to speak in the audience here presently? Has any questions? Okay, Mr. Whitehead, you have 3 minutes. Yes, please. Do you have questions or do you have a statement, Mr. Whitehead?
Both.
Okay.
All right,
Can you
leads
read
in-
your statement first and then we'll go into your questions?
Well, they're mixed together.
Okay.
The chief earlier this year said that there would be no rookie fire academy this year, 2025, at Elk Creek. Yet in the income statement for ending of October 31st, 2025, there was a budget line for $6,300 or $66,300 with no expenditures. And the new draft budget for 2026 under rookie training shows a line item, I believe maximum of $6,000. I would like to know, or to ask, if there will be a rookie fire academy for Elk Creek Fire for 2026 to utilize that $6,000, or will Elk Creek help support a Conifer Fire Academy or some type of joint fire academy in the mountains?
Yeah, is this the,
Go ahead and answer
Yeah.
that question.
yes, I think I've said this several times, we are planning on doing that next year. This year is very nebulous, we didn't know where we were going. We did bring on 3 volunteers this year, and next year we are working with Conifer Fire because we don't have the bandwidth to do our own fire academy. We've had joint academies up here for longer than I've been around. And moving into 26, we're working on what our recruiting plan is going to be and what we can fiscally support for volunteers.
Thank you.
I have a question for you, Mr. Whitehead. Where did you get that number from?
I have the detailed budget,
From Director Newby.
yes.
Okay, thank you. You said you got a member in the gallery?
We have 2.
2, okay, who's first?
I've got Flip Koch and then Rob.
Okay, Flip,
You want to go ahead and unmute?
is it a question or a statement?
It's a kind of a mix of both, but
Okay.
it's more a question than a statement.
Let's go.
Okay, well, first of all, I want to thank the chief and associates for creating a clear budget. Budgeting, of course, is a cost accounting exercise with a forward look. And there are more ways to slice the cheese or whatever image you want to use, which results then, there's more than one way to do this. And some things are kind of lost in the detail by rolling up. So oftentimes we talk about this in terms of stocks and flows of funds. Stocks being amounts and flows being where they come from or go to. So this is an exercise of what comes in, what goes out. I'll note that in the budget there are line items that are as modest in scale as $5,000, but I don't see in the current budget, it must be rolled up somewhere, the legal costs that are forecast for 2026. And I'm hoping, Chief, you can perhaps point me to where that is and perhaps even what the magnitude is. So that's kind of question number 1. And question number 2 is that if we have a cutoff of, let's say, $6,000, I can point to expenditures in 2023 that were over $15,000, 2024 that were over $14,000, and this year, which are $66,000, which are all attributable to Director Newby, and those don't appear obviously in this either. And as a taxpayer, I wouldn't mind seeing what's forecast for paying him off next year.
Yeah, Flip, I can attest to that. I'm going through right now, it's right around 100,000 is what we budgeted for it. I think in our current climate, that is probably what the rest of our future looks like. If you give me 2 seconds, I can actually find the right number, the exact number, but I believe it's right around 100,000.
It's 105,420.
That sounds like it.
What is it?
I'm looking for it.
I got it.
And that's just for clarification, that's rolled into administrative expenses?
Yes, that's correct.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. That was my guess, but that's all it was, so thank you for the clarification. And again, I think since there are legal expenses which in majority are attributable to one director, I think it's also appropriate that those numbers be reflected in the budget as well. That's all I got.
Thank you, sir. And I'm sorry, who was the next person?
Rob.
I'm sorry, what?
Rob 3-1, whoever.
Rob?
Yeah, my name is Rob Jorgensen. I'm from Valley High District, if you can hear me.
Thank you, Rob.
So my question is, the chief was discussing the 2 ambulances that the department's spending $700,000 for, but we currently don't have a way to actually house them. When right now there's no plan or accommodations or even any budgetary item to address that. So how is it fiscally responsible to buy 2 ambulances that we can't use in a house?
Well, we actually can use and house them. We do have space for them. We need more space. So half of our bays, if you're familiar with our facility, one of our ambulances sits in the old building and we have a new building. The new building has the space. It's just not going to be very convenient. We have some options for the short term, but for the long term, we're going to have to change something.
So you're saying convenience versus a need?
We need 2 new ambulances. Right now, our
No, I'm
ambulance.
talking about the facilities. You're saying it's convenience that the ambulances will fit there now, but it's not convenient for whoever.
It's not very efficient, no. We'd have to double stack them. It is a short-term fix at best.
So then you say you do have some plans or some ideas.
Yep.
What's the cost of those plans and ideas for 2025? Or 26, excuse me.
Well, I'm working on those plans in an effort to not waste the board's time. I want to have everything put together in some packages, and there'll be some options for us on what we're going to do.
Wouldn't that have been smart to have something done before we bought $700,000 ambulances?
No, because we have to have $700,000 ambulances to provide EMS services for the residents of our district.
Okay, I'm just making sure we got our fiscal responsibility.
Are there any questions or comments from the gallery? No?
Any other online questions?
Anyone else here? All right, thank you. No other questions, no other comments. I would like to have a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion.
Second.
Thank you. Pending, given that are there any objections to closing the public hearing? All right, public hearing is closed at 7 o'clock. We'll entertain a motion to approve the 2026 budget as proposed.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
That was unanimous, thank you very much. There is now a resolution before you as well, moving on, so that was resolution 2025-11-20-1, moving on to resolution 2025-11-20-2, which is the resolution to set the mill levy, which I have right here. And we are setting our mill levy at 12.5 mils. I need a motion to do so.
Motion.
Thank you. Second.
Second.
Thank you, sir. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
That was unanimous as well. Moving on, we now are moving into an executive session as posted, executive session pursuant to 24-6-4024B under the Colorado Revised Statutes for purposes of receiving legal advice.
On the current litigation related to the exclusion.
See, that's not written here. Thank you, Mr. Camille. I need a motion to move into that.
Motion.
Second. Thank you. For the audience online, as well as those of you in the public, this is going to be an executive session. No decisions will be made. We will come out of said executive session and adjourn the meeting from there. If you'd like to stay, you're welcome to, but just not in this room. Or if you'd like to, we will reopen the session, the Zoom session, once the executive session is complete. Chief Ware, will you please stay? Mr. Newby, I'm sure you are aware this is in regards to you, sir. Have a good night. Have a good Thanksgiving.